Today we are going to be reacting to a video by TwistyChase, Fortnite's most underrated chapter. Now, what it seems to be from the thumbnail, that it's going to be Chapter 4, and that's why I wanted to save this video, because I do watch all of TwistyChase's videos. Chapter 4, in my opinion, rivals Chapter 2 and Chapter 1 and Chapter 3. I'm a big fan of Fortnite. Chapter 4 is so underappreciated. So Fortnite's most underrated chapter being Chapter 4, I completely agree with. We're going to react to this today. I would love to know what you guys think about it down below. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. Could you just imagine for a second? Could you just imagine that it has nothing to do with Chapter 4? That'd be crazy, but still, I'm sure it's going to be a banger video either way.
With another chapter of Fortnite coming and going, I thought it'd be a good time to take a look back at one of the most underrated chapters in this game's history, which
Chapter 4 of Fortnite. Guys, I'm not kidding when I say, and I know, I'm sorry, I'm 7 seconds in. I know. And by the way, I know I'm going to get those comments. I get it every single reaction video. Stop pausing the video. Let it play. The link for Twisty's original video will be in the pinned comment description down below. This is called reaction content. You can't just post somebody else's video. I'm going to give my commentary on it. But anyways, man, seasons 1 and season 2 of Chapter 4 are S tier seasons, 1000%.
Chapter 4. So in today's video, I'll explain why I think Chapter 4 stands out as one of the strongest chapters in Fortnite history, and why I think it's the most underrated chapter of all time.
All right.
Starting off with what I find to be the most important aspect of a chapter or in a season, we have the loot pool. Now,
the loot was incredible. Even just for season 1, the whole loot pool was fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but the Falcon Scout carried the entire seasons for me.
Chapter 4 introduced an almost entirely new loot pool, with a few unvaults sprinkled in here and there. For the most part, these new additions to the loot pool were fantastic. The Red Eye Assault Rifle was a welcome change of pace, and it's legit one of the best sighted ARs that we've ever received.
Agreed.
The Twin Mag SMG was an absolute beast, and it's remained as one of my favorite SMGs even 2 chapters.
And I still love that Epic, like when Epic Games kind of adds, and I don't know if it's the right word for this one, but a gimmick to an item, to a weapon. You have a regular SMG, and just, it makes it that little different from, instead of just, oh, this one's has this much bloom, this one reloads a little bit quicker. I love the fact that it actually has the twin mag. I think that's super cool.
Later. And as for the shotguns, Chapter 4 nailed it with both the Thunder and the Maven, as both of these shotguns were extremely useful for their main purpose. But where things really got interesting was the introduction of 2 of the coolest items in Fortnite's history, with the Excalibur rifle and the Shockwave hammer.
Twisty, you left out the greatest item in Fortnite history. I don't know if he's going to talk about it, but no, the hammer, dude, the hammer and the Excalibur rifle were so much fun to use. Chapter 4's loot pool and gameplay, strictly gameplay, I think Chapter 4 had the best gameplay out of an entire chapter.
Excalibur was a unique weapon that shot out explosive projectiles, and the weapon was extremely effective if you hit your shots. And then we have the Shockwave hammer that took mobility to new heights. Whether you were using it to smash through builds or launch yourself across the map, the hammer quickly became one of the best traversal items in game. But the reason I think Chapter 4 had one of the best loot pools overall isn't just because of the base weapons. It was the chapter's ability to bring great items to the loot pool season after season.
Yep, and I will even hold that opinion through Wilds. I liked the explosive repeater rifle. The Mammoth pistol's one of the greatest weapons they've ever added to the game. This chapter had some of the best loot pools you will ever see in a game.
Mega arrived, giving us 2 of the best Fortnite weapons of all time, with the Havoc Pump Shotgun and the Havoc Assault Rifle.
But it wasn't just about that, though. It wasn't just about like that. Like, the base loot pool was incredible. I love the Havoc weapons. The Havoc Pump Shotgun's up there for my favorite shotgun, don't get me wrong, and just the base weapons were great, but they also introduced things like the Attack on Titan mythics, the Force mythics, the Shockwave hammer. I'm not just talking about Mega over here, but they did a great job with the fun, wacky weapons as well. Season 4 had the wonderful mythics that we all loved. I'm pretty sure off the top of my head they were all pretty useful, and they were all unique. They were all really nice to play. Even the Optimus Prime cannon, like all of them were so good.
These 2 weapons were essentials for me during Mega, especially the Havoc Pump. That shotgun was top tier, and a true contender for one of the best shotguns in Fortnite's history in my opinion. Season 2 also introduced the Kinetic Blade, and while this weapon wasn't the best for combat, it had some of the best mobility for any item in the game.
Now, actually, one of my most unpopular opinions on this channel is that I didn't really like the Kinetic Blade all that much. I thought it was just like, oh cool, you do a dash. I get that it was useful, but I was just like, everybody's talking about it like it's one of the greatest things Fortnite's ever added. And out of everything from Mega, you choose a Kinetic Blade to, and nothing against you, honestly. Like, the Kinetic Blade was great. I don't mean any disrespect in saying that. I just thought it was, like, weaker compared to everything else that they added throughout that season.
Now, Season 3, on the other hand, was a bit unbalanced in terms of new weapon additions. The repeater rifle and the mammoth pistol were both pretty solid weapons, but the other additions like the flapjack AR and the thermal DMR weren't the best. Season 4, however, finished off the chapter strong with the twin mag assault rifle and the infiltrator shotgun. Now, both of these were great weapons that felt balanced and satisfying to use, and even though I wouldn't say either of them are anything groundbreaking, they were both very refreshing to have at the end of the chapter.
And they brought the rocket ram. I forgot to mention that one. The rocket ram just shined in that season.
To mention, we also had a bunch of mythics throughout Fortnite's history return during the season, and they are all fun to use. But the highlight of Season 4 in terms of the loot pool for me is without a doubt the rocket ram.
There you
even
go.
Though Season 3 had some rough patches for the loot pool, I truly think that Chapter 4 had some of the best new weapons that we've ever received. Now,
yep, and if they ever make a reload game mode where they unvault the majority of stuff from Chapter 4, man, that would take over for everything that I've ever played.
If you're enjoying today's video, make sure you hit that like button, as if this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll make a similar video talking about the worst Fortnite chapter of all time.
Now, I agree with that, guys. I love TwistyChase's channel. Twisty is an amazing guy just in general, so the links will be in the pinned comment description down below. Please, please, please go show him some love.
Also, be sure you subscribe and join us on the road to 10K, as less than 10% of you watching right now are actually subscribed to the channel.
That's crazy.
Moving on, another aspect of Chapter 4 that absolutely stood out was the map and the graphics. For starters, Chapter 4 gave us some fantastic points of interest, like the Citadel, Anvil Square, Frenzy Fields, and Lonely Lab. And then Season 2 took things up a notch, introducing Mega City, one of the best POIs of all time in my opinion. And on top of that, we had the Cherry Blossom biome with locations like Kenjutsu Crossing, which provided a nice...
And it's not only the POIs, and I don't know if Twisty's actually going to mention it, but just I've spoken about the graphics ad nauseum on this channel. Chapter 4 had my favorite graphics. It was a perfect blend between realism and the cartoonish aspect that I should have said that backwards, the realism that Fortnite's trying to move to. But not only that, look around the background. I loved the space aspect. I loved the floating island in the middle of the void kind of thing with the waterfall going off with the asteroids around. I thought that was one of the best parts about Chapter 4 too.
Nice alternative from the sweatiness of Mega City. And of course, Season 3 introduced the jungle, which I will admit was an interesting addition to the map. While I think it had a lot of potential, the sheer size of the area made it hard to navigate, and it didn't quite land with me the way I was hoping for.
I personally liked the jungle, and I know that's such an unpopular opinion, but I loved the change in flow of gameplay. I loved the idea of having to look around in bushes, the mud everywhere, hiding in the trees, getting bullets rained down from you. I thought it was fantastic.
And of course, Season 4 wrapped things up with some great POIs like Sanguine Suites, Relentless Retreat, and Eclipse Estate. I say these were great because on their own, each of these locations were pretty cool. The problem we ran into was that all these POIs felt a bit too similar to one another. But with that said, I still think they enhanced the map overall for Chapter 4, with the positives of the POIs outweighing the negative. But the area where the Chapter 4 map really shines for me are the visuals of the map. I'll stand by this statement forever. Chapter 4 not only had one of the best map layouts and POIs in general, but it also had the most visually stunning map that we've ever received.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially like with the chapters that we've flown through now. Like, look at the graphics, man. I always think about that old Lachlan clip. Look at the colors. Look at them, man. The snow was beautiful. The sky was beautiful. Every single little bit of Chapter 4 was stunning.
Every single biome was just stunning, and I think a lot of players would prefer the more cartoonish yet semi-realistic art style of Chapter 4 to the dull realism of our most recent map in Chapter 5.
Yeah, and I really hope that Chapter 6 doesn't continue on with that. Like, at the time of recording this video and releasing this video, it's a couple days before Chapter 6. It seems that the graphics are going to be pretty cool, but man, I hope they just do a little bit of accommodation with Chapter 4 like they did.
Another aspect of the chapter that made it stand out were the events. And yes, I don't mean these events, I mean these. As we all know that Chapter 4 was by far the worst chapter for live events, given that there were absolutely none. But back to the point, looking back at the sheer number of in-game events from Chapter 4 is actually insane. It all kicked off with My Hero Academia. Now, I won't lie, I'm not an anime fan whatsoever, but even I have to admit that the skins and the inclusions of the powers like Deku Smash and the loot pool were straight up awesome.
Now, I'm not, I'm just like, I would say like I'm out of the beginning stages now of my anime journey. I don't know what My Hero Academia was. The Deku Smash was so much fun. Just like I always talk about this, guys. I talk about this in the mechs. I talk about this in the OG days with John Wick. Like when you can strike fear into players' hearts, that's when the game gets fun. Once you start hearing someone go, like it's time to run. And not only that, it's like you're in a building and the building's gone. I loved that. I thought it was great, but I know that Twisty's about to talk about the Attack on Titan. Now, Chapter 4, Season 2, when the Force Mythics, the Spider-Man gloves, and the Attack on Titan Mythics were in the game, I would argue that this was the most fun time to play Fortnite ever, gameplay-wise. It flowed perfectly. Everything worked perfectly. Every single fight I got into was fun, and not only fun, it was technical and wacky at the same time. Everybody was using some different loadout, so you never knew what you were fighting up against. Like, it was one of the, if not the best time to play Fortnite in the span of those couple weeks.
Then came Season 2, where we started off with Attack on Titan. And even as someone who's only seen a couple episodes of this show, I can confidently say that this collaboration was great.
Twisty, you gotta finish. That's the greatest show of all time.
ODM gear completely changed mobility in the game. And while the Thunder Spears weren't as good, they are still a fun addition to the event. But where these events truly peaked was with the Find a Force event that was hands down the best Fortnite collaboration event of all time.
Now, sorry, I just want to mention this. I know I paused the video at like a weird point to bring this up. I just want to mention it because we're in Season 2. I don't know if Twisty's going to go back to Season 1, but the heist event in Season 1 was beautifully done. Beautifully. It was unique. It was something that the Fortnite players loved. It was something the Fortnite players didn't know that they wanted, and it's too bad that Epic Games continued on with all of these just being collaborations. I would have personally loved to see like one original Star Wars collab, one original Attack on Titan collab, whatever you wanted to do. Like, I'm not saying, like, don't get me wrong, I love them being in the game at the same time, but you know what I'm saying. Like, just still have your original events.
Epic Games didn't just bring the Star Wars universe to Fortnite, they actually made us feel like Jedi and Sith. From wielding lightsabers with Force abilities taught by Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul, to the incredible skins available in the item shop and the event pass. This event was truly a dream come true for Star Wars fans, and I even think casual players who don't enjoy Star Wars at all still probably had a ton of fun with this event.
Oh yeah, there's no way you couldn't have had fun with that. Plus, you brought back one of the most beloved items of all time in the Spider-Man web shooters.
And before we even had time to fully process the Star Wars hype, Epic Games hit us with another great collaboration. Finally, Miles Morales joined the game, but the real star of the show, the return of the web shooters. Now, if you missed out on these in Chapter 3, these were and still are one of the greatest mobility items in the history of Fortnite. I don't think any chapter has come close in terms of quality with these collaboration events that we—
Yes, and quality of the game too. There weren't any bugs with them, if I'm not mistaken. Like, everything just flowed smoothly. It was an absolute pleasure to just play the game as it was.
It's all in Chapter 4. And of course, we can't forget one of the most impressive and game-changing features that were introduced in Chapter 4 with augments. At first, they might have flown under the radar for many players. They're easily one of the best ideas to ever be implemented into the game.
And I love that Twisty uses this song because you don't see it in too many YouTuber videos, and I don't know why I would say this ironically, but I unironically like love this default vibe song. I think that's what it's called. I could be wrong about that, but it's just harder to listen to the video and not go like da 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 ch 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 da 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 ba ba da boom boom boom.
This brought an unpredictable and chaotic energy to Fortnite, making every match feel fresh and unique. You never exactly knew what special ability from augment that your opponent might have.
Now, this is the only weak point that actually Mega did have, and same with Wild. It was perfect when it was added in Season 1. Season 4 did better, but I don't like that they didn't go the wacky route like they did in Season 1.
For example, an opponent with the Aerial's Augment could escape your fight with a redeploy, someone with Bloodhound could track you down after landing a shot, or a player with a shotgun recycle might outlast you in a duel without having the need to reload. These abilities weren't just about enhancing individual playstyles, and I feel like these added an entirely new layer of depth to Fortnite's gameplay. They're one of the—
Yeah, and it helps burnout for a lot of people because I always say one of the big problems with Fortnite is a lot of fights in a lot of different metas feel the same because everybody's using the same thing. Whether it's a shotgun, SMG, maybe a hammer, let's say in Chapter 4 Season 1. While that's still fun, when augments were in the game, it added a different element, as Twisty said, in the sense like all of your fights that you had were different because all of a sudden somebody could have soaring sprints, somebody could just be leaping up in the air, somebody could spawn a balloon out of nowhere. When fights feel different, when fights get diverse, That's how you make Fortnite more fun, in my opinion.
Abilities that make Chapter 4 stand out when in comparison to other chapters. And of course, I'll give you a brief rundown of all the seasons overall. When looking at the seasons of Chapter 4 as a whole, I'd say they range from peak Fortnite to genuinely good seasons. Each season brought something distinct to the table, even if they weren't all flawless.
Yeah, Chapter 4, Season 1 and 2 were peak, 3 was good, 4 was really good.
Season 1 kicked things off with a bang, and it's easily one of the best debut seasons in Fortnite's history, setting a strong foundation for Chapter 4.
That's interesting. That's interesting. It's certainly better than Chapter 1 season, or Chapter 5 Season 1. Chapter 3 Season 1 is the big contender right there. They're almost equal, man. It's crazy.
Season 2 for me was an all-time favorite, and I know it's a divisive season for some players, but everything about it for me just worked. And in all honesty, I still think Epic Games haven't topped this season, as it's one of the best of all time without a doubt. And now let's talk about Season 3, and hear me out. Was this a great season? Not at all. But was it as bad as Primal or Vibin? Absolutely not.
No, I liked Wilds. I thought it was underrated. The loot pool was still fun. The flow of the gameplay was still great. The augments lacked a little bit. I enjoyed the jungle biome, man. I did. I liked all the big bushes. I liked the fact that players were camping in the trees, raining down bullets. I liked the raptors interrupting things. I loved the wasp jars. Like, I thought it was nice. The temples were cool. The little bit of storyline that we did have, that was at least interesting. I enjoyed Wilds, man. I really did.
Wilds had a unique concept, but ultimately underdelivered on its potential. With that said though, I don't think the season was terrible, it was just extremely average. And finally, we wrap things up with Season 4, which I consider to be a pretty solid conclusion to Chapter 4. The returning mythics were a blast to use, and the new weapons added a fresh dynamic to the gameplay, even if it wasn't groundbreaking. So in conclusion, I think that Fortnite Chapter 4 is easily the most underrated chapter of all time. I personally think it's the second best chapter of all time, right behind Chapter 2. But
yeah, man, I don't know. Like, it's so difficult when you're talking about, like, seasons 1, or chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. They are all so good, in my opinion, that it's tough to rank. Like, I can't imagine how people just sit down, talk about their favorite chapters, and just, like, confidently say that Chapter 1's the best. I'm like, dude, but Chapter 2, 3, and 4 exist. I know we've had some hiccups. I know that Chapter 1 hasn't had a Primal. I know that Chapter 1 hasn't had a Wilds, but still, like, there are points of shining material from these other chapters.
As always, those are just my thoughts, and I'd love to hear yours in the comments below. But until next time, guys, as always, take care and stay twisty.
Now, it's nice to have another person really enjoying Chapter 4, and it's nice because Chapter 4 doesn't have the haters that you still see. Like, you still see Chapter 2 haters, you see Chapter 3 haters, you see a lot of Chapter 5 haters, but Chapter 4 seems to be, like, a decent common consensus among the community, in the sense where, like, at the very least, it was good. And somebody came to visit. Hello, baby. Hello. What a perfect time to end this video. But I love to see some glaze for Chapter 4. Chapter 4 had 2 of the greatest seasons in Fortnite history, that being Seasons 1 and 2. Guys, look out for the tier list video ranking every single Fortnite season. That is going to be coming very soon. I cannot wait to make that video. Guys, go follow TwistyChase down below. It's a pinned comment, description down below. Thank you so much for being here. But if you are already subscribed to TwistyChase and you already watch his content, which if you don't, again, you should, by the way, then check out this video over this beautiful little puppy's face over here, where we have another reaction video. I'd love to have you guys over there. Take care, everybody.